Have you ever experienced someone suddenly pulling away, ignoring your messages, or becoming unexpectedly distant without explanation? Imagine clearly, everything seems fine one day, conversations flowing, connections feeling genuine, trust strong, and the next day complete silence. Confusion sets in, quickly followed by worry and self-doubt. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Is it my fault? But what if I told you their silence isn't always personal? What if their sudden distance is actually a reflection of something deeper? Today, we'll explore 7 powerful reasons why people suddenly start ignoring you and what it truly means from the Stoic perspective. By understanding these reasons, you'll gain clarity, confidence, and peace of mind, freeing yourself from emotional confusion. Stick around to discover the hidden truths behind their silence and how Stoicism can help you handle these situations with wisdom and emotional strength. Let's get started. They're testing your reaction. Let's dive into a scenario that can leave you feeling confused and even hurt. When someone intentionally ignores you to test your reaction. Imagine this clearly. You have a close friend or colleague, someone you've built a strong bond with. Daily conversations come naturally. Texts are frequent, laughter is easy, and trust feels mutual. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, things drastically change. Your messages go unanswered. Your calls hit voicemail repeatedly, and the warm connection suddenly turns icy cold. At first, you're puzzled, then anxious. Questions race through your mind, each one louder than the last. Did I offend them somehow? Did I unknowingly cross a line? Is something terribly wrong? In these moments, emotions often spiral out of control. Doubt creeps in, followed closely by frustration and hurt. The silence feels heavy, almost painful. Have you ever found yourself obsessively checking your phone, desperately seeking some form of acknowledgement? Have you experienced the sinking feeling when your heartfelt messages vanish into digital oblivion without a response? If so, you're not alone. These reactions are natural and human. However, here's the surprising truth. Sometimes silence isn't just a random act or loss of interest, it's a calculated test. Indeed, some people intentionally ignore you to observe how you respond. They want to see if their absence will trigger panic, insecurity, or desperation. This manipulative tactic allows them to measure their influence over you, subtly asserting control by observing how deeply their silence impacts your emotional well-being. Think of it like a game of tug-of-war. Imagine clearly holding one end of the rope, with your friend on the other. Suddenly, they drop their end and step back, waiting to see if you'll desperately pull harder, frantically chase after them, or panic because they have let go. But what if you simply don't react? What if you calmly let go too? The game loses its meaning entirely. There's nothing left for them to manipulate. Typically, most people handle this by frantically sending more messages, repeatedly asking, "Are you okay? Did I upset you?" Or worse, apologizing without knowing their mistake. Unfortunately, this approach inadvertently hands control over to the silent party, validating their manipulative strategy. Consequently, the more you chase their attention, the more they pull away, reinforcing their power and leaving you emotionally drained. So is there another way? Can you break this harmful cycle effectively? Stoic philosophy offers a powerful solution here, advocating calm and emotional detachment. The Stoics teach us to focus strictly on what we can control, our reactions. You can't control someone else's choice to ignore you, but you can control how you respond. Resist the impulse to react emotionally. Try this instead. Remain calm, composed, and silent yourself. By refusing to engage emotionally, you deprive the manipulator of their desired response. Let me share a personal experience that vividly illustrates this point. Not long ago, I noticed a close friend becoming increasingly distant each time I got busy with my own goals. Initially, I was genuinely hurt, questioning myself endlessly. My first instinct was to chase their approval. But then, remembering Stoic teachings, I paused. Rather than bombarding them with messages, I chose calm silence. Surprisingly, within days they returned, friendly as ever, acting as if nothing had changed. This taught me an invaluable lesson. Their silence had been a test. When I refused to react emotionally, their manipulation lost power. Here's how you can effectively apply this Stoic wisdom. Identify when someone is playing the silent game. Once you spot the pattern, resist participating. Maintain your dignity by not taking the bait. Don't message repeatedly, don't seek reassurance, and don't chase attention. Simply remain calm and emotionally detached. Remember your worth. Healthy relationships don't require emotional manipulation or tests. Ultimately, remember this: genuine connections are built on openness, honesty, and mutual respect, not games. If someone chooses silence as their weapon, refuse to engage in emotional warfare. Your strongest move is always calm composure, proving that your self-worth doesn't rely on anyone else's acknowledgement. 2. They no longer benefit from you. Now let's explore another reason someone might suddenly ignore you. They no longer see any benefit in maintaining the relationship. Picture this scenario clearly. You've been incredibly supportive, consistently helping someone whenever they needed you. Perhaps you've assisted them at work, provided emotional support, or offered valuable connections that advance their career or personal life. Everything seemed fine, your interactions positive and mutually rewarding. But then, almost overnight, their attitude shifts drastically. They become distant, their replies are short and cold, and eventually the communication dwindles down to nothing. Naturally, your first instinct is confusion mixed with hurt. You begin questioning your value and replaying interactions in your mind, looking for mistakes or missteps. You might even ask yourself, was our connection genuine, or was it merely transactional? This realization can feel painful, even humiliating. After all, no one likes feeling used or disposable, right? Unfortunately, the most common reaction here is resentment or bitterness. It's easy to let negative emotions take hold, fueling anger and disappointment. You might confront them aggressively, accuse them of selfishness, or retreat into silent bitterness. Sadly, none of these reactions solve the issue. Instead, they amplify your emotional pain, making the experience far worse. But here's the crucial question. What if you could see this clearly as a reflection of their character rather than a measure of your worth? What if Stoic philosophy could guide you toward a healthier perspective? Stoicism teaches that accepting the reality of people's motivations liberates you from emotional distress. Marcus Aurelius said it best: if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Apply this wisdom by acknowledging that some relationships are inherently transactional. Resist the impulse to take this personally. Try to view this shift as clarity, revealing the true nature of your connection. I experienced this myself in a work environment. I had a coworker whom I consistently supported, providing guidance and help whenever they faced challenges. Once they achieved their goals, however, they became distant, almost dismissive. Initially, I was hurt and confused, struggling with feelings of betrayal. Yet, recalling Stoic teachings, I realized their change in behavior wasn't about me personally. It simply highlighted their transactional view of relationships. Here's how you can effectively handle similar situations. Recognize clearly when interactions are based on mutual benefit. When benefits disappear and the relationship changes, calmly accept it without bitterness. Redirect your energy toward relationships rooted in genuine care and mutual respect. This shift protects your emotional well-being and empowers you to cultivate healthier connections moving forward. Ultimately, understanding and accepting that some relationships are transactional frees you emotionally. It prevents bitterness and resentment, allowing you to see clearly who truly values you and who merely values what you provide. Remember, your worth isn't determined by how others perceive your usefulness, but by your own self-awareness and inner peace. 3. They're influenced by others. Another painful but common scenario you might face is when someone you trust suddenly begins to ignore you due to being influenced by others. Imagine this vividly. You've developed a meaningful connection with someone, investing time, energy, and genuine care into the relationship. Everything seems solid and trustworthy, yet one day, without explanation, they become cold and distant. Your messages are left unanswered, your calls are ignored, and the warmth you once enjoyed evaporates quickly. Naturally, confusion and hurt set in as you begin to question yourself. Did I offend them unintentionally? Did something happen that I'm unaware of? The unsettling truth is, this sudden change might not directly relate to anything you did. Instead, it may stem from external influences, from friends, family, or coworkers. Perhaps someone else has whispered negative opinions about you into their ear, subtly undermining your relationship. Maybe a friend or relative expressed disapproval, planting seeds of doubt or negativity. These outside voices can strongly impact how someone perceives you, even if those perceptions are entirely unfair or inaccurate. Typically, people respond to these situations emotionally. You might become defensive, reacting with anger or desperation to reclaim the lost connection. You might aggressively confront them, demanding explanations or desperately trying to convince them of your innocence. However, such responses often backfire, reinforcing negative perceptions instead of dispelling them. Reacting emotionally to external influences usually validates these misguided opinions and can push the person even further away. Instead, Stoicism advises a calmer, more measured approach. Remember, you cannot control what others think or say about you. You can only control your reaction. Remain composed and focus on consistent integrity. Demonstrate your true character through actions, not emotional responses. By doing this, you indirectly challenge negative perceptions without confrontation. I experienced a similar situation personally a few years ago with a close colleague at work. We had always had a strong professional relationship built on mutual respect and cooperation. Suddenly, he started withdrawing, giving short, cold responses, and ultimately avoiding interactions altogether. At first, I was deeply puzzled and hurt, wondering what I'd done wrong. Later, I discovered that another coworker had been spreading rumors, casting doubts about my intentions and professionalism. Initially, I felt anger and frustration, and my instinct was to confront him defensively. However, recalling the Stoic wisdom about control and reputation, I chose not to react emotionally. Instead, I decided to let my consistent behavior and integrity speak louder than the negative whispers. I remained professional, kind, and calm, demonstrating my true character clearly through my actions rather than defensive arguments. Here's how you can effectively handle a similar situation. Recognize that external influences and opinions are beyond your control. Resist the urge to defend yourself aggressively or confrontationally. Stay calm and composed. Instead, consistently display your genuine character and integrity through your actions. Allow time for the truth to surface naturally. Often, people influenced by negativity eventually see reality clearly when your behavior consistently contradicts negative rumors. Ultimately, understanding that someone's changed behavior can result from external influences rather than personal dislike allows you to respond wisely. Remaining calm and consistent in your actions speaks louder than any words or explanations ever could. Genuine relationships will weather these storms, emerging stronger once the influence of misguided opinions fades away. Remember, your peace comes from inner strength, not external validation. 4. You've stopped playing by their rules. Let's explore a scenario that's both challenging and empowering. What happens when you finally stop playing by someone else's rules? Imagine clearly you have someone in your life, maybe a friend, a partner, or even a family member, who constantly expects you to behave or respond a certain way. For a long time, you've gone along to maintain harmony, always agreeing, always compromising. But then something inside you shifts. You start setting boundaries, expressing your opinions honestly, and acting in alignment with your true feelings. Almost immediately, their behavior toward you changes dramatically. Communication dwindles. They become cold, distant, or completely unresponsive. You start questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong by standing up for myself? Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you stop playing by someone else's rules, they often withdraw not because you've made a mistake, but because you've disrupted their control. Some people stay close only as long as they can influence your decisions, emotions, and reactions. The moment you assert your independence and refuse to be manipulated, their interest fades. It's not about you changing negatively, it's about you reclaiming your personal power. Think of it like a puppet whose strings have just been cut. As long as the strings were intact, the puppeteer could control every move effortlessly. But what happens the moment those strings are severed? The puppet gains freedom, moving according to its own desires. The puppeteer, faced with losing control, often walks away, not because the puppet did something wrong, but because it no longer served their purpose. Typically, your immediate reaction might be to feel guilty or worried. You may even consider apologizing or reverting to old behaviors just to get the relationship back to normal. Unfortunately, this reinforces their control, keeping you stuck in a cycle of emotional manipulation and compromise. So what should you do instead? How can Stoic philosophy help you navigate this difficult situation? Stoicism offers valuable insight. True independence sometimes means letting go of relationships built on control. As the Stoics say, the price of independence is losing those who prefer you dependent. Rather than viewing their withdrawal as a loss, embrace it as a liberation from emotional manipulation. Genuine respect thrives on mutual understanding, not coercion. I remember experiencing this myself in a close friendship. My friend consistently expected me to drop everything and prioritize their needs, often making me feel guilty if I hesitated. Initially, I complied, thinking it was my duty to maintain the relationship. However, one day, I decided enough was enough. I set clear boundaries, refused to feel guilty, and prioritized my own needs without apology. 5. They feel threatened by your growth. Let's explore another scenario that's often confusing yet very revealing. When someone ignores you because they feel threatened by your personal growth. Picture this clearly. You've decided to make positive changes in your life. Maybe you're pursuing a new career, adopting healthier habits, or simply becoming more confident. Initially, you expect your close friends and family to be supportive and excited for you, but instead, one person in particular reacts differently. They become distant, avoid conversations, or dismiss your achievements. Confusion and disappointment set in as you wonder, why aren't they happy for me? What did I do wrong? Here's the reality. Your growth can threaten people who preferred you when you were less confident or dependent on them. Your progress highlights their insecurities, making them uncomfortable. Think of it like crabs in a bucket. Whenever one crab tries to climb out, the others instinctively pull it back down. Some individuals similarly try to pull you back down when you start flourishing independently, because your success makes them confront their own lack of progress or insecurities. Typically, your instinctive reaction might be to downplay your achievements or apologize indirectly for your progress to regain their approval. Unfortunately, this approach only validates their unhealthy behavior, holding you back from your full potential. So what should you do instead? Stoicism offers empowering guidance here. True growth means embracing change, even if it causes discomfort in your relationships. The Stoics believe strongly in personal responsibility for growth and happiness. If someone feels threatened by your improvement, it reflects their issues, not yours. Remain focused on your path, continue your growth, and don't compromise your progress for the comfort of others. I faced a similar challenge when I started advancing professionally. One close friend, who had always been supportive when I struggled, became distant and critical once I started succeeding. At first, I felt hurt and considered minimizing my accomplishments to keep their friendship. But soon I realized their reaction wasn't about me. It was about their own insecurity. Remembering Stoic principles, I chose to keep progressing without apology. Over time, although our friendship changed, I found deeper confidence and formed healthier relationships with those who celebrated my growth. Here's how you can effectively handle similar situations. Recognize when someone's negative reaction is rooted in their insecurities. Stay committed to your growth without feeling guilty or apologetic. Surround yourself with individuals who genuinely support and encourage your progress. Ultimately, your growth should inspire, not threaten, those who genuinely care about you. Remember, healthy relationships will evolve positively with you, not resist your progress. Continue growing confidently and unapologetically, knowing that true supporters will always stand proudly beside you. 6. You've exposed their true nature. Now let's examine another powerful scenario. When people start ignoring you because your actions have revealed their true nature. Clearly imagine this scenario. You've always been understanding, patient, and supportive in your relationships. Perhaps you've overlooked someone's shortcomings, made excuses for their behavior, or always offered them the benefit of the doubt. But one day something shifts. Perhaps you stop tolerating dishonesty, manipulation, or inconsistency. Suddenly, your newfound clarity and honesty cause discomfort, prompting the other person to withdraw and ignore you. Why does this happen? Simply put, your clarity has shined a spotlight onto their true character. Previously, they relied on your tolerance or willingness to overlook their faults. But now, your refusal to play along has exposed aspects of themselves they would rather keep hidden. Imagine shining a flashlight into a dark room filled with clutter. The mess was always there, but now it's undeniably visible. Instead of cleaning up the mess, they simply retreat into the shadows, avoiding the uncomfortable truth you've illuminated. Your initial reaction might be to second-guess yourself or revert to your previous tolerance to restore peace. You might wonder, was I too harsh? Did I expose too much too quickly? Unfortunately, returning to old patterns only reinforces their problematic behaviors, ultimately harming both of you in the long run. Stoicism offers crucial guidance here. Honesty and authenticity should never be sacrificed for the sake of comfort or false harmony. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Staying true to these principles means accepting that not everyone can handle the authenticity or clarity you offer. Those who recoil from truth are revealing their limitations, not yours. I experienced this personally with a close relationship. For years, I tolerated dishonesty and inconsistencies to avoid conflict. When I finally addressed the issues openly and honestly, the person quickly became distant and stopped communicating altogether. Initially, I felt responsible and even considered apologizing for my straightforwardness. However, reflecting on Stoic wisdom reminded me that I had done nothing wrong. Instead, my honesty simply exposed a reality they weren't prepared to face. Here's how to effectively navigate similar scenarios. Recognize clearly when your honesty or authenticity is exposing someone's true nature. Stand confidently in your values and integrity. Resist returning to old, unhealthy patterns simply to restore superficial comfort. Accept that relationships based on truth and authenticity are the only ones truly worth maintaining. Ultimately, exposing someone's true nature isn't something to regret. It's a necessary step toward healthier, more genuine connections. Trust yourself, remain honest, and let those who retreat from your authenticity find their own path. Genuine relationships will always welcome truth, even when it's uncomfortable. 7. It's a blessing in disguise. Finally, let's explore a scenario that initially feels painful, but ultimately proves to be a hidden blessing, when someone ignoring you makes space for better connections. Imagine clearly, someone important to you suddenly withdraws. Initially, it feels deeply painful and confusing. You may ask yourself, why is this happening? What went wrong? At first glance, their absence feels like a profound loss, leaving an empty space where they once were. Think of it like a garden shedding dead leaves. Trees never mourn the leaves falling in autumn. They willingly let them go, understanding it's necessary to make room for new, stronger growth in spring. That's precisely how life operates. Some relationships are seasonal. They're never meant to stay forever. When these people leave or ignore you, they're simply making room for healthier, stronger relationships to enter your life. Initially, your reaction might be sadness, regret, or even desperation to regain the connection. Unfortunately, clinging to what's gone only prolongs your emotional pain and prevents new growth. Instead, how can you see this loss differently? Stoicism teaches us that every event, even painful ones, serves a purpose. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Viewing their absence as a beneficial clearing rather than a harmful loss changes your emotional perspective entirely. Personally, I've experienced this clearly. When a close friend abruptly exited my life, it initially felt devastating. But over time, I realized the relationship had drained my energy and held me back from pursuing healthier connections. Their absence ultimately allowed more positive and supportive relationships to flourish. Here's how to handle similar situations. Recognize clearly when someone's departure is actually beneficial. Avoid clinging to past relationships that no longer serve your growth. Embrace this new space with openness, letting go of old pain and welcoming new connections. Ultimately, when someone leaves, they create space for people who genuinely align with your growth and happiness. Trust this process. Allow yourself to let go gracefully, knowing that genuine, supportive relationships will naturally enter your life. Remember, life removes certain connections to help you grow stronger and healthier connections in their place. Remember, when someone suddenly starts ignoring you, it's rarely about your flaws or shortcomings. More often, it's a reflection of their internal struggles, insecurities, or discomfort with your growth and authenticity. Instead of viewing these situations as losses, see them clearly as opportunities. Opportunities to embrace your independence, to surround yourself with genuine people, and to live a life guided by honesty, strength, and integrity. In Stoicism, your peace and strength come from within, not from external validation or approval. When people leave or ignore you, they're simply making room for healthier, more supportive relationships. Trust the process, trust yourself, and remember, your value isn't defined by how others treat you, but by how clearly you see your own worth. Stay strong, stay true, and let your actions always reflect the wisdom you've gained.